Hello and welcome back to Lab 52, a Dynasty Football podcast. I'm one of your hosts, the Tecmo Weave, joined by my co host, Weapon X. And today we have a very special guest star, All Time Low. We're going to refer to him as ATL throughout this episode. He is one of the participants in our new Lab 52 Listeners League. Once again, this is not Dynasty advice, this is Dynasty Insight. Yeah, we just had our startup, um, and it was surprising doing it without any sorts of trades. I'd like to hear from both of you because it was new for me. I had another owner recommend that to me, and he suggested. I said, "Oh, without the trades, there's going to be a lot of trading afterwards," and that didn't seem to be how our league played out initially. What do you guys think?
I'll let you take it, ATL.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it. It was very interesting. I thought there was a lot of strength with most teams. They saw what they were trying to do and did that. I think one of the interesting kind of tweaks to this league with no trades is you don't have anybody during the draft making moves back aggressively to set themselves up for next year. And so I think we'll probably touch on this later, but you get to the end of the draft and we've got a lot of teams that feel like they're right in the hunt and they're probably one piece away. It looks like probably that piece is going to be running back for the most part. And I just think it took a lot for people to look at their team and say, I'm gonna punt this for a year. We put this together, but I think it also showed a lot of strength within just the owners within our league that we were able to put together a group of 12 guys that mostly put together competitive teams. I don't think that we would argue that there is like a weak team here or one superstar team. So it was really fun. We all took very different directions as we went through our process. And I think a lot of the teams, you can kind of see as you go through them what they were trying to do. And you don't see that all the time with these drafts because you'll have somebody trade out of a pick and they're looking for something next year, or somebody's moving up aggressively and you see a part of what they're trying to do, but they've given up so much that maybe that has changed later what they're going to do. So really, I thought it was interesting and really fun, a different little idea to this, and it does set up, I think, what might be a delayed trading kind of window, I think is gonna happen. I just think maybe there has to be something on the football field that really kind of tees it up for somebody to say it's time to go a different direction. But I really appreciate you guys having me not only on here but as part of the league, and I have a blast with all of this and excited to hear your perspective as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We really appreciate you joining, and that was some great insight there. Yeah, I found it very interesting to do a draft this way. This was my first time doing a startup without trades during the startup, and I think, like you touched on, that everyone did, a strategy, a certain type of strategy, their own way, and you really have to when you have this type of setup. You don't have the opportunity to look ahead at certain picks or certain rounds to make trades to get the guy you really want. So you have to build a strategy ahead of time, knowing where you're at in the draft order, and try to build your team pick by pick. I think it just real evident by the fact that one of our league members recommended doing a poll at the end of the draft to see who they thought had the best draft, and it was very very diverse. The list of the poll there had pretty much everyone except for maybe a couple teams had a vote. So that shows how well this league drafted. Really good teams, and that's the one thing I noticed. Just good rosters all the way around. And it really, like you said, teams may head into the season feeling real good, but then they might struggle. Some players might underperform. injuries. You know how that happens. That's just part of the game, and that's where you might see some more trades happening as far as future picks or players that are underperforming. You may see more of that happening during the season. But yeah, I think this was a really fun way to draft. This draft was great. A lot of engagement during the draft, and it was. I had a lot of fun with it. It was one of the more fun drafts I was a part of.
I have to agree with you. When we did that league poll, one of the rules was that you couldn't vote for yourself. And if you go on the desktop site and you hover over the numbers, I have to inform you that someone did vote for themselves. So you are welcome to go look at that and you can find out who it is. I'm not going to call them out. They can go in there and switch their vote real quick. But uh, it's a question of, they're not going to hear it as we're recording this. So you can see someone did it, though. I didn't do it. But somebody voted for themselves. They ignored the rules and said, I'm going to do it my own way. So
I feel fairly confident that it's none of the three of us.
no, it wasn't. It wasn't us. It wasn't us. It was somebody else. You guys can see, and listeners, I'll go. Feel free to go hover over the number on the desktop site, and you could find out who it is too. But all right, let's hop into the draft here. I got my fantasy league up here, and we're gonna try to pick one. And I don't want us to force it. I had mentioned that earlier. We don't have to look for something to be down on, and we don't have to, go out of our way. If, the first round, I mean, those are all good players. Um, say, oh, this one is the best. I mean, maybe I could find the best value, who fell the most in the first round. Um, but yeah, I guess maybe I'll kick it off with my favorite pick of the first round. And once again, these are all good players. This is a 12 team, Superflex, PPR, minor tight end premium league, start 10 type of league. So, very popular format in today's dynasty landscape. And when I'm looking here, I would say my favorite pick, it really had to be, I don't know, I guess I would say JSN falling to number 9. When I think about, I mean, to me, it feels like you could justify JSN in the top 3 or 4 picks if you wanted to. If you wanted to go wide receiver early, um, I have him ranked over Chase, simply due to age. There isn't a competing, pseudo alpha wide receiver right across from him. I mean, when he's not on the field, no one else can replicate that role. When Jamar Chase isn't playing, T. Higgins can kind of fill in, like a stunt double. Um, so what do you guys think about JSN at number 9? Do you think, or do you see maybe a different pick? You said, no, I like this one. This value was better, or maybe they're all good.
Yeah, I'll take this real quick. Yeah, that was exactly who I had too. JSN at number 9 is incredible. I have him as the number 2 overall asset in Dynasty right now. So for me, that's a no brainer. I would also throw out Puka. Puka at 10 is also incredible. I think those two receivers to get them at the back end of the first round. If you get that in any dynasty startup, you can really build your team well right there because you're going to have a high pick in the second round too, and you're going to start with elite assets to start your draft. So yeah, JSN definitely strong value there.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, ATL, you give us your least favorite. Do you have a least favorite pick in the first round?
All right, well, I'm not going to say this is necessarily my least favorite, but I am going to play devil's advocate on the JSN pick because I do think there are a few red flags with what he did last year. The efficiency numbers were off the chart. Um, there's really a lot of a lot of the balls are going to go around, and they're going to have to give it to somebody else. I realize they don't have anybody in place that is going to demand targets right now, but it is a little bit of a stretch for me to put him above somebody like Chase, who can just dominate from every part of the field. I get it. I'm nitpicking, and I do understand that, but I did want to just kind of throw that out there because I would say going back, and I know that there are some, some waves that will start this, but I think one of my favorite picks is Gibbs at 8. I think he's gonna just go absolutely crazy this year. I think there's a start of a new trend of not going quarterback early. I realize I picked right before this and I could have taken him, so I look a little silly now. That said, I do think that there is a lot of value in taking Gibbs there when Bijan goes, multiple picks in front of him. Um, I do like the Puka pick. And again, I do think the JSN pick is a good value. I just do think there are more red flags coming along with JSN's profile than most people are giving credit for at this point.
Hey, that's fair. That's fair. That's why we have different viewpoints on this show, so we can have varied insight provided to whoever decides to listen. Let's move on to number 2. ATL. We'll kind of maybe we'll do it snake order. We'll try our best to do that. Why don't you give us your favorite pick of round 2?
Oh, so I thought, I mean, I ended up with McBride here, right? And I do think McBride and Bowers are very close. We're obviously doing tight end premium, but I do side with the Bowers end of that, and I think getting him at 2.6 in a tight end premium, or I'm sorry, 2.5 in a tight end premium is just stealing. Hampton in front of him, also great value, but I really don't know how you can take somebody so young that is going to be so versatile in that offense. They're going to center everything around him. It's, I mean, that's just a slam dunk.
Yeah, I loved the Brock Bowers pick. I kind of kept. I thought, maybe Weapon X, you'll take him. And I thought, okay, he's coming off of the board at 2-1, and then I saw my least favorite pick, which we don't have to beat a dead horse, Devon Achan. Um, that to me is certainly the in the running for worst pick of the second round. I don't know why you would take what they say, a falling knife. Why would you go try to catch that at this moment? Uh, Weapon X, do you have a least or most favorite pick of the second round?
For me, I would say I would say my least favorite pick. And this is not because I don't think this quarterback is someone that's going to be a strong player on your team. But in this spot, I would say Justin Herbert at 2.7. I don't think I would have taken him there over the players that were still available. I still think, I mean, Joe Burrow, I think I'd rather have him right now over um, Herbert, and Joe Burrow was picked a couple picks later. But when you got guys like Drake London, Malik Neighbors, Ted McMillan, even, I think those guys I'd much rather have to build my roster around. And then when you come back around 3, you're still going to have a strong value at quarterback, which Hokas did get. He got Jalen Hurts in round 3. But I feel like with that pick, if you look back on it, if you stack Jamar Chase with Drake London, I think you're feeling really good about that, and then get Hurts in round 3. So for me, I would say Herbert is my least favorite pick, and it's not because I don't think he can be really strong for your team. I just think you could build a better roster if you went a different direction.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, no, that was certainly getting Burrow at 210. That's an excellent value pick, and passing him up for Justin Herbert is that was a head scratching moment.
Well,
Um,
that was my reaction within the draft is that Hoke has had the opportunity to pair Chase. I'm going to go a different way with Burrow there and have that stack moving forward. Obviously that's a little risky with Burrow, but man, you come out of this draft with those two, and I mean, you can put up some points every week.
yeah, what do you guys think about Loveland? Loveland in the second round, that felt maybe a little too aggressive because what did they say? There's Bowers and McBride, then there's everybody else.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Colson Lovin, while he's, the way he finished last season, everyone was amazed and impressed by him. As, rightfully so, he should be picked very high right now. But I think, only a couple spots away from McBride. I think that's a little too rich for me. I would have liked to see Loveland go to round 3, maybe middle of round 3. But hey, You're not going to be upset having him on your team. It's all about roster construction. I think you can build a better roster if you wait a little bit longer for a guy like Colson.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay, well, let's move on to round 3. ATL, I'll have you kick it off. You are welcome. At special guest choice, you can choose to do whatever you want to do with this round.
Yeah. Kind of going back to the Loveland pick, I really like Tyler Warren this year. I know I'm going back to the tight end but I do think that the beginning of last season was a major step forward for him, and without the quarterback problem that he ended up having at the end of the year, I think we might be talking about him in the same light as we are with Loveland. So to get what amounts to basically a round discount to get Warren there, I like that a lot. Um, you start getting into like Harold Fannin. I think it has a lot of upside, but also there's a lot of new faces in that arena, and I think he's going to struggle to kind of dominate targets as much as he can from last year. And so I do feel like there's a bigger gap between that Warren Loveland kind of subset and Fannin than most are giving credit for. So that would be kind of the ones that stick out to me on both sides.
Weapon X, how about you?
Yeah, so this round had a lot of quarterbacks. We had Lawrence, Dart, Mahomes, Ertz, Nix, and Purdy. And then we had Goff and Love. A lot of quarterbacks this round. So I think if I'm going to pick my favorite pick here, or least favorite, I don't really have a least favorite pick here, honestly. I think the values are fine. But I guess for my favorite pick, I guess I'm going to piggyback right there with Tyler Warren. I think in a tight end premium, I think that's the pick. That's the pick in this round. And like ATL said, the discount you're going to get on him, comparative to Colson Loveland, I think that's a solid pick. That's a strong pick. And so for me, I would agree there. But I don't really have a least favorite pick here, honestly. I don't think there's any pick in this round that I'm maybe Harold Fannin, and maybe Jordan Love. I would say I think he can drop a little bit there in the rankings, but this was more of a just keep building that roster with what's left here out of the quarterbacks. It looked like that's what this round was about.
Yeah. When I look at the end of the third round, I can see, the team 10, that was picking 10th and 11th. I think they just got scared. They saw, what was it, 6 quarterbacks go off the board already, the first 13 overall, and neither team had a quarterback. So that's
Yeah.
why you end up with Jared Goff in the third round and Jordan Love in the third round. I just don't like that value. Once
Yeah.
again, this isn't because I hate Jared Goff or I hate Jordan Love or I think that they're not worthy to be on your team. No, that set it up really nice for you, Weapon X, because all of a sudden, like, Harold Fannin does not belong there. Loveland and Warren, I'll pretend that, okay, yes, they are kind of in their own sub tier. To you got Bowers, Loveland, then you got Bowers and McBride, then you got Loveland and Warren. Flip those however you want. But there's a drop off after that to Fannin, and that Fannin felt like a reach, Goff felt like a reach, and Jordan Love felt like a reach. So you cleaned up and you got George Pickens. that that might be my favorite pick of the entire round, because you dodged 3 bullets to get it. So yeah,
Yeah.
those are my feelings on round 3.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I didn't want to pick my own guy, there, but yeah, I
That's
was
okay.
I was thrilled to be able to get Pickens there. I saw the quarterbacks going off the board, and I'm like, okay. I already knew at that point I'm probably going to fade quarterback maybe till the 5th round, which is what happened. Actually, I got a quarterback. Round 6 was my first quarterback. I knew that was going to be the case just seeing how many were going off the board here in the 3rd round. So I said I'm just going to continue to stack values here at the running back and receiver position. I was pretty excited to be able to get wide receiver 1 in the 3rd round.
100%. Well, why'd you kick us off for round 4?
Okay, so round 4. Yeah, this is a good round. This is a good round just looking here at a glance. But I'm going to say my least favorite pick. I'll go with the least favorite pick. In this round, I'm going to go with A.J. Brown. I'm going to go with AJ Brown here. Yeah, everyone's excited about the move to New England, and rightfully so. He's going to be playing in a really good situation, but we just haven't seen it yet. We don't know how Drake May and AJ Brown will click right off the bat. We don't know. We haven't seen it yet. So I think for me, I'm waiting a couple more rounds for AJ Brown there. I don't. I just like we talked about a couple weeks ago with AJ Brown. Even if he has a strong season, his value is not going to increase. He's getting older. The value is capped. It's not going to increase. I would rather have had guys like Lad McConkey or Chris Olave. If you're going to go with receiver, Carnell Tate, guys like that, I'd rather have those guys because they can build value in the next couple years. AJ's not going to be able to build his value.
Yeah, that is certainly a player that doesn't belong there for a dynasty league. Maybe a redraft league. My least favorite in round 4 here. It was funny when it came up. I don't know. Uh, I think I must have seen a video or something. When it comes to some of my favorite touchdown celebrations of all time, do you guys have any favorites? I'll tell you a couple of mine, so you can't take these. One actually is the Randy Moss when he does the fake moon to the Packers, only because of
How did he do
Joe
it, Ryan?
Joe Buck. Joe Buck saying that is a disgusting act. Like, come on, come on. It's not like he actually pulled his pants down, you know. But when I
Do
saw Chris, go ahead.
you know the backstory on why he did that?
No, why did he do it?
So when you come into Lambeau, there are fans in a bus that moon the players as they come in. So all of these players are getting mooned by this bus of fans. And so that's why he did it. It was actually something that happened to him outside the stadium.
Well, that is truly a disgusting act. But when I saw Christian McKinney kind of coming full circle here, and then I'll tell you my second favorite touchdown celebration, which might actually be my number one. I just think the Joe Buck comment makes the Randy Moss touchdown celebration even funnier. But when I saw Christian McCaffrey go in the 4th round of a dynasty startup, I said that is a disgusting act. I did not like that one bit. That is too rich for a guy who, what does he have? Maybe a year or 2 left? He's not built like Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry is an outlier. Well, we can't tell yeah, everybody that's been elite, once they hit 30, it's gonna get a lot better. It really backs you into a corner, and, I was watching a dynasty, critic analyst show, and they suggested letting the draft decide for you what type of team you're going to have because sometimes the values don't fall to you or they do or the youth falls to you or the win now players fall to you. Let that decide for you what type of team you're going to be. And when you pick Christian McCaffrey in the 4th round, you're going out of your way to be a certain type of team. And that is your right to do that. And once again, I don't hate Christian McCaffrey. He may be a league winner. I'm just saying that I don't like it in a dynasty startup. And this is my personal insight. That's all. That's all I have to say. But I'll finish it out with my second favorite, maybe most favorite touchdown celebration is the Isaiah Crowell wiping his butt with the football and then throwing it into the stands. That has to be like the most creative camera wants to turn away. I don't know if either of you remember that. That was just a handful of years ago. But yeah, it was Isaiah Crowell doing that. I was like, man,
Remember it?
I'm glad he just doesn't care. And I'll give an honorable mention to what is it, Joe Horn with the flip phone in the goalpost. That one was also very cool.
I would say for me, it's not even really a celebration. I just love how this player did it every time. It was Larry Fitzgerald just handing the ball straight to the ref every single time. No celebration. I'm someone that's to be here every single time. He acted like he should be there, and he just handed the ball to the ref every time. That was my favorite, Larry Fitzgerald.
ATLs, you have one that's more exciting than that one.
Come on, man.
Well, Tecmo, you took my top two with Randy and Joe Horn. But I will say, I think one of the most iconic is the To popcorn celebration. To is he can go either way with everybody, but I that one was special. I think that one's really good.
Yeah, no, those are some fun memories. Do either of you have any more words on round 4, or should we move on to round 5?
Yeah, let me. I didn't get to jump in here because
Oh,
I
I
just want
I
to
apologize.
say no, you're fine. I just want to touch on Weapon X's turn as well because I think the George Pickens pick in the end of round 3 is great. I'm also a huge Igbuka fan. I think it's being overlooked, kind of the rookie fatigue that these guys have. It happens to a lot of them, especially the ones that are forced to play immediately. They come right out of college. They're going to go right into the draft and all of the workouts for that. I mean, they're basically going 18 months in a row, and they just this happens. And I think he showed a lot, and I think that turn was just amazing. I agree on AJ Brown when you kind of look at it and the way that Michael's team was actually building it. It doesn't make sense. A lot of young players on that team, and then just kind of jumps in with the senior citizen, and here we are in New England. But yeah, it goes back to the roster construction. I understand it in some regard, but if you look at the picks before that, I don't see how that matches up with what he was doing before.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and I mean, I don't wanna foreshadow, favorite or least favorite teams, but, when we get to that at the very end, that is going to be a qualifier. Does your team make sense? Did your picks make sense? Were they good values throughout the draft? Um, and yeah, AJ Brown and Fannin, and we'll see what the next rounds have. But yeah, no, I also really liked the Pickens Egbuka turn. That that took some guts. You didn't get scared and decide to grab a Jared Goff type player. You took the value, so you can give yourself a pat on the back. But we'll let you kick off round 5, ATL.
So round 5, I've been I've been a big Luther Burden truther, and you really snuck in there and took him a little earlier than I thought he would go. Um, that is who I was looking for, and I think you could make an argument that he could go next year 2 rounds in front of this. Um, you know, I think there's a lot of hype going on around him, and obviously that boosts the value that you're going to get in the 5th round here. But I think there's a very high probability that he is going to be heavily leaned on. There's a lot of rumblings on Rome, one way or another, and the way that Ben Johnson used Amon Ra up in Detroit, you see a lot of similarities with the way that Luther could play. I really like that. In terms of the picks, I wouldn't have taken. I'm not sure I'm ready to take Baker in the middle of the 5th. I think there's plenty of red flags with him as well. Uh, you know, I think he's got a couple of years left, but I do think that some of the guys that went right behind him are more interesting. So those are my kind of high and lows on the 5th round.
Weapon X.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to have two players here as players I really liked in this round. I really like Garrett Wilson at pick 5-5. A wide receiver one. You're getting him in the 5th round. I mean, I know there was chatter about it in the league chat too, how good of a pick it was. That was a good pick, especially with the roster construction he has. I mean that's a really good pick there. And then also I like Kenneth Walker. I like him in round 5 too. Pick 5-3. I'm really excited about the landing spot, as everyone is. We need to see him obviously stay healthy. Last year he was able to, thankfully. He played well in the playoffs. He turned it on, when it mattered the most for the Seattle Seahawks. I'm really excited to see how he does in this offense. We have to see Patrick Mahomes get back healthy and play the way we know he can. But yeah, I'd say those two picks there, you're getting strong values with those guys. Kenneth Walker's he could be a really good value there in round 5. He's heading into the season as back end RB1 on a lot of rankings. So I like that pick. So Garrett Wilson and Kenneth Walker for me.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to this round that you guys haven't already covered. The only pick I didn't really like. I mean, I get it. The quarterbacks are going. It's just a personal feeling, just based on the on-off year. You can call me superstitious, or I've just noticed a pattern for the last 7 years. That this should be the injury year for Dak Prescott, and when you have already backed yourself into a corner by getting AJ Brown, you kind of need a quarterback you can count on. I'm not sure who I would have picked instead. I mean, maybe the ceiling is higher with a Dak Prescott, but it also doesn't match up with that team's other players, as we had already mentioned. That's probably my least favorite pick. I mean, a lot of the players that went in this round, they're just good quality starters. Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker, Chase Brown, Garrett Wilson. Um, Fernando Mendoza, I know if you wait much longer, you're not going to get him, but it does feel like it that also backs your team into a corner. If you pick a player like Fernando Mendoza in the 5th round, aren't you already kind of saying like there's no way I'm going to be competitive this year, because I'm burning an earlier pick on him, but I know he's not going to be a starter out of the gate. Or am I just misreading that?
No, that's a good point to bring up. But the thing about Fernando Mendoza is, obviously number 1 overall pick. Kirk Cousins is there. The plan is Kirk Cousins to start the season. But if training camp plays out and Mendoza's showing tremendous progress, we may not. It may not be that long until we see him. We could see him in the first couple months of the season. If that's the case, I think you can afford to wait a little longer. When the team we're talking about here has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devon A-Chain, Judkins. He's got Laporta. He's got some good pieces, for a starting lineup. Obviously, like you said, it's tough to burn a pick early like that on Mendoza if he's not going to start early. But if he's in there in the first couple months, I think you feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, and I think, another part of that is he's got that first overall pick insulation that a lot of the guys behind him. I realized Kyler was also, the first overall pick. That seems like a lifetime ago. Obviously, onto a new team here, but that is the only side I would say that would definitely put me in that camp, is that there is a little more stability long term than when you start looking down what we're looking at with even with Tyler Shock, right? I mean, not bad, but second round pick. Could this year go wrong? I think there's a little more risk there than what you've got with Mendoza, who's probably got at least a runway of 3-4 years, even if he doesn't start this year.
I think that's fair. That's absolutely fair. And I mean, he did get a nice insurance policy in the 8th round with Daniel Jones. So, now he's one of the handful of teams. Only a few select teams have 3 legitimate quarterbacks. So, at the end of the day, maybe he has the 3 best quarterbacks overall collectively in the league. I don't know. But Weapon X, why don't you start us off on round 6?
All right, so round 6, yeah, I see some good values here. But if I'm going to pick one player, round 6 is going to be Mekhi Lemon at the end of round 6 here, pick 611. Yeah, I think the landing spot for him in the NFL draft is really good. Obviously, we know AJ Brown is now in New England, so that opens up a really good opportunity for Mekhi Lemon to start his NFL career as a potential top 3 target on a strong offense in the NFL. So I think Mekhi Lemon, 6'11", I really like that pick. That is your pick, Tecmo. I know you've been high on him. You've been getting him in some other leagues. So for me, that's the pick I like there. I just think the value is really strong, and we talk about it all the time. Guys like this, young players coming into the league, if they start off strong, and I know ATL mentioned it with Luther Burden, similar to him, if But Kyle Lemon has a strong rookie year, and it doesn't need to have 1,500 yards. He doesn't need to have those kind of numbers. He just needs to have a really solid year. And if he does that, you're talking about a second, third round startup pick next year, and that's exciting to get a guy like that at this pick.
Yeah, I was very surprised he was still there. I figured somebody would take him. But no, that was nice to have that value fall. ATL, what did you like about or dislike about round 6?
Yeah, I like the Lemon pick too. It'll be interesting to see how they incorporate him, on some shorter targets from Hertz. I am a fairly big Zay Flowers truther. I think he is, habitually underrated, and I think getting him in the 6th round as likely a wide receiver 3 on your team is pretty amazing value. Obviously Rashee Rice could really pay dividends, but he could also be nothing really quick. So that one is the swing for the fence pick of this round, but I like the Zay Flowers pick at the top of the round.
Well, I'm going to just jump right in. I'm very thankful you brought up Zay Flowers on this show. He's been one of the more popular players that we talk about. The highest floor in Dynasty is Zay Flowers. Yes, getting him in round 6, Tecmo, I know you love it.
I do. I do. It's a real safe it's a safe pick. It's like buying vanilla ice cream. Somebody will like it.
ATL,
You know,
I'm not sure if you noticed, one of the division names in the league is Flowers. So that's where it came from if you weren't sure. It's because of Zay Flowers.
If you don't know, now I know.
very good. Very good. And let's see if I have any feelings about round 6. I don't know. I Some of it too is like the confirmation bias as I was watching certain teams pick. If I didn't like a couple picks they made, then I just started to look at their whole team through a negative lens. Like they did it again. Why'd they do that? And I'm not sure here. I mean, I'm warming up to the idea that Kyler Murray might be the best quarterback the Vikings have had in the last like 5 years. Um, that is quite possible. I mean, Sam Darnold succeeded in a good situation, but I mean, maybe Kyler brings more to the table, and he has the weapons. I mean, what's the likelihood? I guess I've been reconsidering Kyler as a starter, and part of me doesn't like the pick here, and the other part of me says, you know, if you wait much longer, maybe you don't get him. Then you're ending up with like a Matthew Stafford, who the rug could be pulled out at any moment. What are your feelings, either of you, on Kyler Murray in Minnesota?
How much time you got?
We got. Let's see what time it is here. Okay, we got about 20 minutes left, and we want to get to round 10. So give us a 2 to 3 minute synopsis.
Yeah, I'll keep it even quicker. I think there's a lot of upside here. Obviously, being a Vikings fan, it's discouraging to see McCarthy kind of fall apart the way he did, but there has been plenty of evidence of quarterbacks succeeding in this system. I think, given the traits that Kyler has and the way that we could possibly run this offense, I think you're looking at a potential bounce back. I also It's also hard to see him completely retooling everything with the struggles he had just getting the ball to the receivers that he should have been getting it to in Arizona. So I think there's a lot of jubilation for a JJ comeback this year, and I obviously I would love to see that, but I don't think that Kyler ties into his best players as well as some other quarterbacks do, and I hope that he will get over that part and will focus directly on tying in the best parts of our offense. So that's my short version of that story.
I like the joke they make about Kyler Murray. The Vikings say skull. They're gonna say small with him, SMOL, instead of SKO.
That sounds right.
All right. Well, I think that I don't know if we have anything more to say on round 6, or we'll move on to round 7 here. Um, Taking a look here, I was a little surprised that Kyron Williams was still around in round 7, even though it's early round 7. To me, that felt like a value, and yeah, I'm doing my own pick. Um, I also, let's see if there's any other picks here. I did not like Denzel Boston at the end of the 7th round when you don't really know, because also he went before KC Concepcion. Like, is there and I mean, I guess you can say they're both rookies, and we'll have to let the talent sort it out. I'm letting the draft experts and the scouts and the NFL executives decide that for me, and they said KC Concepcion is the better player. I don't tend to know more than they do. What do you guys think about Boston going before KC?
Yeah, I think yeah, that's a tough one. KC is the guy I would take there. Yes, I don't think it's great value there for Boston. And also looking at some other picks here, I do like Cam Scatabo here. Obviously, he cleared the hurdle, the NFL draft hurdle. So obviously, everything's looking good for him in that regard. Hopefully, he's able to enter training camp looking good, looking healthy. But middle of round 7 for Cam Scatabo, who looked really good, in his first year in the NFL. Fun player to watch. Obviously, his running style is gonna, could be something that causes injury, concerns going forward. But he's a fun guy to watch, and the offense is improving. So yeah, I think that pick there is really good.
Yeah, and obviously I was the beneficiary of Concepcion falling there, getting him in the next round. So I definitely agree personally, and it benefited me as well. I think I think Alec Pierce is really primed for a big breakout. It was really hard for me to take Waddle in front of him. At that point in the draft, I was looking at my team as a lot of young wide receivers that I needed a little bit of an anchor to go with Smith, and I really wanted to hit the button on Alec Pierce because I think there are big things coming for him. There's just not that many mouths to feed, and he plays a lot different position than what they're going to ask Tyler Warren to do, and really what they're going to ask their other receivers to do. So I like that one.
Okay. Weapon X, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I like the Alec Pierce pick as well. I like everything you said there about him too. I'm starting to think there's going to be some really good things from him this year. To have 1,000 yards on 40 some catches, we've talked about it before. That's incredible. So if he just gets more targets, which essentially, it's there for him. He's got a chance to get more targets this year. He bumps up in targets, and obviously you're going to see a potential for a really good year. So having him in the round 7, pick 7, 8, yeah, I think that's definitely another strong pick.
Certainly. Well, round 8, how about we'll have ATL, you'll kick us off for round 8 here.
Well, I mean, how do I go away from obviously my pick was probably the best one, right?
It was a
Uh,
good
I,
one.
I got I got the Browns receiver that we think should have gone in the 7th round and the 8th, so that was good. Uh, all of that to say, I also really like Eli Stowers in this round. He falls right out of that area of high end commodity pick and high upside where it just feels like the right spot to get him here. I really like that one.
I'm not sure I would have had the guts to take him in the 8th round. Usually when, depending on the number of starters you have, that's how I tend to look at my team. Like, okay, this is the first 10 players I pick. These should be my first 10 starters. Um, and I get it if positions, there's a run on positions. But a guy you look at and you say, well, he's probably not going to start this year. Um, I don't know. I don't like how it backs you into a corner. But it is nice to know you have the next, starter on that team. In this case, the Philadelphia Eagles, Weapon X.
Yeah, so yeah, for me, I would say Javonte Williams. I think that's pretty good value. A pretty solid running back to get there in round 8. Um, and then just looking at some other picks, Casey, we talked about him already. That's a really good pick there. And then you got the veteran receivers with Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore. I think that's about where they're going. So I know I'm saying I'm not seeing incredible value there, but that's when you're building your roster, if you get guys like that in the 8th round, you're feeling pretty good about the production that they could put up. Especially Terry McLaurin with Jaden Daniels. Hopefully, he can stay healthy this year. I think you're gonna be happy with the production you get there. So yeah, I think this round overall, some good players to add to your starting lineup. That's what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, I don't also like the Josh Jacobs pick with all the stuff that's going on, and yeah, it could evaporate. Charges are dropped, and it's no big deal. Um, but when we had the draft, we knew everything that was happening, and the NFL doesn't even need convictions to enact their player conduct policy. And his case certainly this wasn't just he just did like one thing. He was charged with a whole bunch of things. Um, so I I just don't know if I would have had the guts to say, well, I'm just going to weather the storm on an old player with a whole bunch of bad news at a position that is replaceable, and burn an 8th round pick on it. I guess I don't like that. I'd rather you take somebody. You take Eli Stowers. That would make more sense. Even take R.J. Harvey. At least he's not, facing a whole bunch of legal charges. But that's just my opinion. So, um, do either of you have anything more to say on round 8, or should we move on to round 9?
Yeah, good to move on.
Yep.
All right, cool. Round 9, I'll continue being a negative person. I get it. Matthew Stafford, so you want the backup because you're not quite confident that Matthew Stafford. But then, see, you locked yourself in. Now, all of a sudden, the first 10 players, now you're taking a backup quarterback for if and when. And also to assume that, okay, say Matthew Stafford gets hurt week 1 and he's out for 10 weeks. Just expect Ty Simpson to come in and he's just going to be like Matthew Stafford. That's unlikely. That's not going to happen. Um, and I get it. You want to have some sort of future. Um, so you have to secure it. So I guess it's kind of when you pick a player like Matthew Stafford in the first 10 rounds, and then you're locked into getting his backups. Now you've burned 2 picks on a quarterback. Um, that could have been spent. I don't know. Your draft capital could have been spent a little bit better. So I'm not really liking it, but I understand it. I guess both of those things can be true. Um, and let's see if there's any pick I certainly like. Josh. I mean, I can say I like these players. Josh Downs, Wandale Robinson. Um, I think that those were nice values. I certainly would have probably taken either of those players potentially over DK Metcalf. I'm just not sure what to make of DK Metcalf, and now with Pittman in town, um, and then knowing Aaron Rodgers is gone next year, it's hard to get behind any sort of Steelers wide receivers. But those are some of my feelings on round 9. I'll let either of you take over and just share what you saw.
Well, I can echo your comments on Metcalf because it feels just like a matter of time for him before he's out of Pittsburgh completely, and he just has not learned how to run a complete route tree. He doesn't run the routes that Rodgers wants. He's not precise, which is exactly what Rodgers wants to throw. I would rather have almost everybody in this round. I know this is going back to my Minnesota homerism, but I think there's significantly more upside in Addison than Metcalf. If he stays in Minnesota, is he going to be Robin forever? He might be, but he might be playing with one of the better Batmans that there are. And if he happens to go somewhere else, he's going to function more as a 1B or a 1A than he is right now. So that was the one that stands out to me in this round.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. Addison was my favorite pick of this round. He has already shown what he can do in this league. And obviously he's playing with Justin Jefferson. But if Kyler Murray can support both of these receivers, obviously we need to see him support JJ first. Obviously that's going to be the key thing here. But if he can support JJ and also he can support Addison, that value there in round 9 for Jordan Addison, he's a very, very talented player. He's a talented football player. You see it on the field. You see how he moves. You see how he runs routes. Very explosive. So I think that's a really good pick there. And also with the Ty Simpson pick, it's tough. It's tough to build your team when you know you have to take the backup not that long after. I don't know. And Ty Simpson, again, he wasn't really expected to be a first round pick. The Rams took him higher than most people thought. I don't think a lot of people were expecting Ty Simpson to be a first round NFL pick. This quarterback class was extremely weak. I mean, it just wasn't anything there. If we're, hypothetically, if we're in a 2027 draft and Ty Simpson's in that class, where do you guys think he's going? I mean, he might. I mean, we're talking late, probably. What do you guys think?
I'm not sure. I feel to I'd have to go take a look at the 27 class, but sometimes it's being at the right place at the right time, which is what he is, and now he gets to learn from Stafford. Hopefully, he gets to learn for a while.
Yeah,
But yeah, if it wasn't this situation for him, it's hard to say.
yeah. I mean,
Well, and
go ahead.
going back to Weapon X's question, I think rumblings right now are potentially 6 to 8 quarterbacks in the first round next year. I don't think he cracks any of that. So you're looking at most likely a second rounder next year at best, and probably falling at least behind 5 to 6 other quarterbacks. So yeah, I think there's some upside there. But as you'll see, as we probably go through this, and at the end, the owner of this also he liked to back up quite a few of his players. So this is a strategy that he plays out the rest of the way.
What do you guys think about that? Getting all the handcuffs, does it make sense to do? I mean, I guess I tend to do it when it's convenient, but I don't tend to go out of my way to do it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't go out of my way to do it. I would prefer to try, but it just depends where you're at in the draft. I'm not taking a handcuff over a value that's going to help my roster. I think it's nice to have it. You feel better having the handcuff, but you don't need to go out of your way to do it, especially if you're reaching when you got other players on the board. I think I understand the strategy. It's nice, especially in Dynasty. It's long term. It's great to have that, but there's just too many values that you can take ahead of the handcuff. So I think for me, yeah, Ty Simpson. I'm excited to see how he'll play, but again, this is Matthew Stafford. It's going to be when he wants to be done. We don't know when that's going to be, and obviously for the team that drafted Stafford, he wants Stafford to play as long as possible. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that situation.
All right. Well, we got about 7 minutes till we're at the hour mark, and we have round 10, and I'll let you take it, Weapon X. But I look at round 10, I hate all of it. It's a really boring,
Yeah,
gross round.
yeah. I mean, that's a really good evaluation of this round. You had a tight end run, Hawkinson, Likely, Ferguson, Kincaid. Yeah, I'm looking it through right. I'm looking at this round right now, and it's tough to find my favorite pick. But I guess man, this is tough. It really is. I guess I'm just gonna have to go. I try to avoid going with my own players, but I'm gonna go with my own player with this one. Omar Cooper, round 10 there. I think the potential for him in an offense that could potentially have an upgrading quarterback after next year's draft. I mean, right now it's obviously not a great situation to be in offensively, but I think a talented receiver like that with Sadiq coming in there. You got Garrett Wilson, of course, but I think if a good quarterback gets there, I think there's value to be had here in round 10 with a player like Omar Cooper.
ATL, your thoughts on round 10?
Well, I would definitely echo the thoughts on Cooper. I think the upside is there. I think he could be a fairly low floor player, but I think absolutely they're looking at him in an expansive role. Honestly, I think the biggest home run swing here is Singleton. It might not be my favorite pick, but I think if he can somehow wiggle his way away from Spears and Pollard, the runway on a young team for him could be unlimited, and he definitely flashed, especially as a young college player. At this point, you're trying to hit a home run, right? So, would I rather have Singleton or Pollard, who went right after him? I would 100% every time take the swing on Singleton.
Well, I would say if you want to hit a home run in the 10th round, you take the big swing, you go for Tony Pollard. That's how you win a championship. You guys weren't sure if I was being serious there. No, I'm not being serious. No, Tony Pollard. Yeah, I hate that pick. I hate the Malik Willis pick. I mean, at this point, I just look at Malik Willis. I'm like, no, come on. We can all read the tea leaves here. He's a bridge quarterback. He hasn't had that much tremendous success in the past. He has it's nice money for a backup that gets to start, but he's being thrown to the wolves, and there's a reason for that. You're just wasting your pick on him so you can technically have a third quarterback this year. I don't like that. I don't like Tony Pollard. Um, Favorite pick, I don't know. I'll go with Blake Corum, a guy that's eating into Kyron's workload potentially at a near 50% rate, and that's a great offense to be a part of. Um, Kyron and Corum, they don't seem a whole lot different when you see them out in the field. So maybe they move on from Kyron, and all of a sudden now you have a starter next year. I guess maybe that would be my favorite pick. Well, with our remaining time here, have either of you? I know I definitely have found my least favorite team, um, based on overall, and of course there were 30 rounds we did. But typically a lot of these things don't get better after the 10th round. So um, I'll let either of you start. If you want to start with your least favorite team or your most favorite team, it's up to you.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to pick. I think we covered it, but a lot of really strong teams. Um, Barrel Proof to me really stands out. I like what he did, especially at the beginning of the draft, getting Bijan and then Burrow coming back all the way around at the end of round two, and then being able to pair him with Dart, I think is incredible value. Um, some of the receivers he's got, are going to be hit and miss from time to time, but boy, he's got some upside on that team. I'm not sure I have a least favorite. I think there's a couple of teams like we talked about. I think Michael's team has a few deficiencies in terms of just the setup of it, but these can all be figured out as we continue to trade and make those things happen. But his team to me is a little confusing, so that's my spot.
Weapon X.
Yeah, I'm looking through the teams right now. If you want to go first, Tecmo, I think I need a little more time to evaluate this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will say my least favorite team. Yeah. No, it was Michael's team. That was my least favorite team, as ATL mentioned. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And just questionable values throughout the draft, mixing and matching old players with young players, poor value. Um, and once again, yes, none of this can't be undone, is written in stone. Um, no, it's this can you can fix these things, but once again, this is just our opinion, our insight provided. So I would say Michael's team is clearly probably my least favorite team. It's the one that made the least amount of sense and got the least positive values throughout the draft. My favorite team, I don't know. I mean, you're right. Barrel Proof is a positive positive team. But if I could pick a different one, I might say Brahma Bulls. Um, I like their three wide receivers they ended up with. You got Ted McMillan, Nico Collins, and CeeDee Lamb. That's a pretty aggressive wide receiver when you start three wide receivers, and then Josh Allen is your quarterback. And then you have to gamble. I always say you got to gamble some of your picks, because you can't just expect that everything is going to work out perfect for you. You have to take players that there's a question mark on. So he takes Bucky, and he takes R.J. Harvey, um, and puts tight end to the 10th round with T.J. Hawkinson. And who knows? Maybe I mean Kyler supported Trey McBride, so maybe brighter days are in the future here for Hawkinson. It can't really get much worse than it did last year. So he seems like a pretty savvy owner. So to pick something different than Barrel Proof, I will say my favorite team is Brahma Bulls.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's who I was gonna go with. Brahma Bulls. I really like how he started his team. You got obviously Josh Allen, the number one dynasty quarterback on a lot of people's rankings. But then he goes with Tet Lamb and Nico Collins. That's a really good trio of wide receivers to get in a draft, and then get Brees Hall as your RB1. He had a really good start to his draft. But then another team I'm looking, just glancing at the rosters here, New York Finest. I like obviously Puka and Jefferson. Anytime you can start with those types of players on your roster, man, that's a great start. Obviously, Jared Goff, that's a pick that we would have obviously not want. We would have liked to see a different pick there, especially with the guys on the board. But he was still able to get Jonathan Taylor, Zay Flowers, Javonte Williams. He's got a really good starting lineup. So that's a team that I would like to point out. I don't really have specifically a least favorite. You guys already mentioned Michael's team. I'm not going to continue to do this to him. Michael's team, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say least favorite team. He can't have three people saying it. So I won't do it. I won't do it to him. But I think least favorite team is hard for me to do here. I think for me, I'm just going to say Brahma Bulls, New York Finest, just looking at their rosters. And but this all together though, this was a great draft. Yeah, there's a lot of teams here that I could see contending and making a run. And I think that's going to make for a really good league. And like we said earlier in the show, this draft was great. A lot of good teams, a lot of good roster builds. So when we're trying to find a least favorite or a favorite team, and there's multiple teams, different teams to pick, that's always a good sign for a league.
I agree. I agree. And of course, there's been some trades that have happened since the end of the draft. Some of these teams look a little bit different than they did before. They're pointing in different directions. So the first 10 rounds of any draft, it only tells part of the story. Well, I think maybe we've told as much of our story to recap some of our draft that we can tell in the time we've allotted for this week. But definitely, thank you ATL for joining us this week and having the courage to come on the show. Yeah, you did a great job. You provided some useful insight to myself and Weapon X and our listeners. So we'd love to have you back whenever you're interested. Yeah, it's been a fun show. And next week, I don't know, we'll have to come up with a new topic. Maybe we'll pick some players we would avoid, or certainly we can talk some trades. We didn't have much time in this show to cover that, but cover some trades that have happened in this league, and see what the dynasty trade market is looking like. But I'll wish you both well for the next week, and I'll pass it over to you, Weapon X.
Yeah, again, ATL, really appreciate you joining. You did an awesome job. It was great to hear your insights. Yeah, I think next week will be a great time to go over some trades that we've seen in the league. There definitely a decent amount of trades that we've seen happen. Some big trades. So yeah, it'll be a good idea to discuss those next week. Obviously, we didn't have enough time today. But yeah, again, awesome show. This was a great draft. I'm excited for this league. I'm excited to see, how it goes. There's a lot of potential for a lot of teams. Thank you everyone who listens. We appreciate you and hope you have a great weekend. Take care.